Okay, now let's talk about the signature aspect of Wonder Girl's production, drums. I approach these drums in a pretty unique way. I'll do my best to try to explain this because I really think what I came up with will help you capture Wonder Girl's bounce. So for the first part of my drum programming, I did something that I refer to as click theory. I noticed that Wonder Girl's new style of production makes really good use of perks, especially rim snares or any kind of drum that makes a sort of click sound. I call it click theory because whenever I beatbox, I make a clicking sound with my mouth to imitate the snares and perks. The goal is to have these clicking drum sounds drive the bounce of your beat. So let me show you how I did this here. First, I laid down this rim perk to use as my main snare. And I added this double hit at every other snare because that's just the pattern I came up with when I was beatboxing. Next, I added this second rim snare and used it to make a fill. I also panned these using the note panning in the piano roll. Then I used this rim to do some bounce snares. And then I used this other rim to fill in basically the rest of the bounce snare spots. So here's how all my clicks sound so far. Now, the thing that Wonder Girl does to really bring click theory to the next level is mix it with more traditional sounding trap snares. But the key is she'll place these snares in unconventional spots since most of the bounce snare spots have already been taken up by the clicks. And I think this is what really gives her beats that unique bounce because it's just so uncommon to hear snares programmed like that, and it really does make for a more interesting listening experience. So for this beat, I added this snare first. Then I programmed one more like this. So here's how all my snares sound now. Okay, so the next thing we have to talk about with drums is the concept of spacing. Wonder Girl doesn't make simple beats.
I usually like kind of go in and I don't make a lot of simple beats.
Her production is usually filled with many interesting elements and layers. Yet her beats never sound cluttered. This is because she programs everything with the concept of spacing in mind. Spacing in your drum programming will add bounce to your beats by allowing there to be certain areas where most, if not all, of your drums stop playing within your pattern. One of the best ways to use spacing is with your hi-hat programming. Gone are the days of the straight up two-step pattern. We just don't hear many people getting away with it anymore, and I certainly don't hear much of it in Wonder Girl's newer stuff. A strategy I like to use is filling out a full two-step hi-hat pattern and then coming in to mute certain notes until I come up with something I like. Here's how I did that for this beat. I added some rolls too because I still did want to keep things interesting. Now, here's where the sauce really comes in. You want to add a second hi-hat and create a new pattern that complements the bounce of the first one while still taking into account the concept of spacing. So here's my second hi-hat pattern. I also added this open hat in a few spots to complement my closed hats. Here's what all my hats sound like together. Perhaps the most noticeable part of Wonder Girl's production is her hard-hitting kicks and 808s. Even though her 808s seem complicated, a lot of the time she's really just working off of that root note. I've noticed that Wonder Girl doesn't use OD amounts of notes when she's programming her 808s either. I think mostly because it defeats from the entire purpose of spacing in the first place. It really is more about where she's placing the notes and the bounce she's creating as she does. So here's my 808 pattern. As you can see, it really is just the root note here. The only thing out of the ordinary is this stutter I created to simulate a reversed 808. I did also make a second 808 pattern for variation. lastly, I laid down this kick. So here is a really helpful tip when making Wonder Girl type beats. If you want your drums to hit harder, specifically your kick and 808, just level all of your sounds like normal, but try to leave a lot of headroom. Then just turn up your 808 and kick. There's literally like no other special trick other than that for getting your drums to smack hard. Just level everything cleanly and then push up the volumes of everything you want to stand out. Something I found that helps a lot is if you add a soft clipper to your master after you've leveled everything and then push your kick and 808 into the clipper. For an example, here's my beat with just the leveling. Now I'll push up my 808 and kick. And now I'll add a clipper and then push my 808 and kick into it.